Time being 7:03, I'll call to order the Franklin School Committee meeting. Meetings are recorded by Franklin TV and shown on Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 29, as well as recorded by Franklin Matters. All right, I'm going to begin with, we have 3 pledge students from Jefferson Elementary, Ben Hester, Elsa Schoolhouse, and Emily Rosa. If I can embarrass you to come up to the mic, all 3 of you. And so Ben is a 5th grader in Miss Cowet's class. His favorite subjects are writing and recess. In addition to playing football at recess, Ben enjoys playing and watching basketball and hockey in his free time. Unsurprisingly, Ben's favorite sports teams are the Celtics and the Bruins. Aside from school and sports, Ben likes playing outside with his friends and his dog, Blue. Ben says the best thing about Jefferson is that everyone is nice and that he will miss the teachers when he moves on to middle school next year. Elsa joined the Jefferson school community this fall after living in North Carolina for 7 years. She is in Miss Sharple's 5th grade class, and one of her favorite things about Jefferson is that the students are nice. Outside of school, Elsa enjoys dance, playing with friends, and spending time with her cousins. One of Elsa's goals in the year ahead is to improve her reading. Being new to Massachusetts, Elsa is also excited to see more than 1 inch of snow per year. We can make sure that happens this year for you. We are thankful that Elsa and her family are part of the Jefferson school community. Emily has gone to Jefferson her entire school career and is now in 5th grade with Mrs. Doherty. Emily currently plays on 2 soccer teams, Franklin Soccer Club and Town Travel. Emily practices playing soccer often, even playing 1-versus-1 with friends to get better and prepare for games. Her efforts paid off this year when she moved from the B to the A team. In school, Emily enjoys writing because she likes to type on the computer. One of Emily's goals is to improve her handwriting, especially when writing letters to people. Emily describes herself as a huge animal lover, despite being allergic to fur. Luckily, she has a hypoallergenic cat named Oreo, who she loves. Emily says her favorite thing about Jefferson are the teachers and the material they get to work with. I want to welcome you all very much. If we're going to rise, and you start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And now, as customary, we'll pause for a moment of silence. Thank you very much. We'll start our meeting right now, but if you want to take off, please feel free to do so. All right, starting with routine business, review of agenda. Agenda looks good. All right, payment of bills is in order. Payroll?
Payroll's in order.
All right, then our FHS student representatives.
Hey everyone, my name is Sid and I'm the class of 2024 vice president. I'll give you a few updates about what's going on at the high school in the past few weeks. Some whole school news. Panther Pride Night is going to be hosted on February 12th, and this is a time where 8th graders can come to our high school, learn about all the amazing clubs and sports that the high school offers, and also maybe get a tour while they're there. The FHS has a jazz concert with the jazz bands on January 29th at 7 p.m. in the FHS auditorium. I know I'll be there for that. Semester 2 has just started for the kids at Franklin High. Some of them, taking on their new classes this semester. But yeah, we just begun our new semester yesterday. Looking forward to next year, course selection has begun for 9th graders, and it'll come soon for the 10th and 11th graders in the coming weeks, and they'll choose their courses for next year. Best Buddies is running a food drive with the Franklin Food Pantry. There's a donation box right outside the main office, and it'll be available till January 30th. And Spanish NHS is now offering tutoring for anybody struggling with Spanish. In the Spanish classes, they can go to Spanish NHS and they'll offer a tutor for them. In terms of sports, girls and boys basketball are taking on Mansfield right now with the boys at home and girls away. We wish them good luck. It was a big few days for our track teams. Last week, the girls and boys team secured a 5th and final dual meet win over Albro. Both are now Cali Rex champs, and that's the first time the boys have ever been Cali Rex champs. Sarah Dumas was named the Hawkmock Player of the Week just today, and she had some great performances last week in a dual meet and over the past weekend at the D1 state relay meet, where the girls actually were co-champions of that meet with Newton North, so a great accomplishment for them. And girls and boys hockey, although they suffered losses over the weekend, they'll be back on Wednesday with the boys playing Albro and the girls playing Norwood. In terms of class of 2024, students can order their graduation caps and gowns now. Senior banquet is on April 5th, and all students should have received invites for the all-night party by now. As for the class of 2025, their prom is May 3rd, 2024, and the prom theme is luxury.
All right, thank you very much. Open the floor to any questions or comments.
Questions? All set.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to superintendent's report.
Okay. Good evening, folks. Thank you first for everyone's flexibility, adaptability, living in New England and with the challenging weather we've had. I just wanted to put a shout out to families and students for working through that and arriving to school when we have it. I just wanted to take a moment to let everyone know, it's not in my report, I'm kind of ad-libbing at this point, but as we continue to face the winter, I think we're in the thick, but it should continue for a while, and I just wanted to put out there that, we'll continue to consult with DPW to look at roads, to look at how fast we can clean up our parking lots, but if we believe it's safe to travel to school, from your driveway to school, we will have school, and we'll do that on time. If a delay is necessary, we will call delays where it's appropriate, and if we can't have school because we cannot clean the lots or clear the lots, we'll certainly cancel. So that can be found online. We have the inclement weather report, but I did receive a few inquiries about just how decisions are made, and one of the things that we really think about is the lot clear on our cars able to be dropping off and buses able to travel and park. So I put that out there to everyone, just knowing where we're at in the winter season. Second note I have, you may have noticed a few articles that have been put out by John Guilfoyle, our PR firm that we use, highlighting different parts of our program. We'll continue to build out that catalog. The first 3 articles focused on athletics, our theater program, and DECA. We're joined by our DECA advisors today, and we'll continue to look at various aspects of Franklin Public Schools at different levels and different areas of interest for our students and student life. So I just would put that out there. Those articles can also be found on the website under in the archive for the superintendent, but we'll continue to showcase and spotlight and spread the wealth and get information out about the programs and the way we're educating kids, but also providing opportunity. So wanted to put that out there and share that. The next one is a newcomer update. I just wanted to give you an update. I haven't provided one in a few meetings, but we have currently 69 students are currently enrolled in our schools across levels, and it ranges from approximately 12 at the high school, 14 at the middle, 15 at the middle, and a little over 40 at the elementary level. Just to add to that, our Interfaith Council is providing after-school tutoring for some of our students. The multilingual language department is in the process of evaluating the curriculum resources we use for all of our students. We also were able to purchase a digital literacy tool to help support classroom instruction, and we were awarded a $30,000 grant through 344 grant to support supplemental curriculum, which is where you see the digital tool purchase, and for direct student support and engagement. And English is also being taught to adults through the library at the hotel. So I wanted to just share an update on kind of what's happening in that area, and that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you very much. And again, I'll just open the floor to any questions or comments.
I'm all set.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So we'll move right along. We got guest presentations. Jefferson Elementary.
All All right, so we are fortunate to be joined today by our principal, Ms. Stephanie Wasik, and our assistant principal, Ms. Beth Murray. They're here to highlight, as you know, this is part of a series of highlighting schools. We're excited to have Jefferson here with us today. And without stealing any thunder, I'm going to kick it right over to Stephanie to begin the highlights. So thank you for being here. We're excited to hear about it.
Thank you for having us. I am just gonna, should I just turn this
Could let
on?
it warm
It's
up,
coming?
yeah.
Okay, okay, all right. So while it's warming up, I'm Stephanie Wasik, principal at Jefferson Elementary.
I'm Beth Murray, assistant principal at Jefferson.
Perfect timing. So you're familiar with this slide. Obviously, tonight's highlight presentation is just an opportunity for us to share about Jefferson and the work that's being done every day. We will be sharing work that's connected to the school improvement plan. We promise to be brief and work within our 10 to 12 minute allotment, and obviously welcome questions.
To kick us off, we thought it would be important to share a mission statement. So Jefferson Elementary School is an inclusive learning environment dedicated to high standards in teaching and learning for all students. We support students in their pursuit of academic and social success. We inspire lifelong learning and develop responsible, self-confident students capable of effective communication and problem solving. Through a collaboration of staff, families, students, and the community, we foster a safe and respectful learning environment, embracing creativity and individuality. And through this mission statement, we embody the following core values that you'll see upcoming, how we embody them throughout our days at Jefferson. But it's to be safe. We nurture a positive and safe learning environment based on student needs. Be respectful. We recognize the value and strengths of each person brings to our community. Inclusive, we welcome everyone because we all belong to our school community. Creative, we are resourceful thinkers who work together to solve problems. And invested, we actively participate in our learning by being focused and involved.
So as promised, the work that we'll share tonight is connected to our school improvement plan that we have linked here, but I know you're all very familiar with. But we also want to focus tonight on our first strategic objective, which is to affirm first strategic objective focused on the social and emotional well-being of students and staff, to help students feel connected, support positive behaviors, increase their academic achievement. So obviously Standard 1 is focused on that, and then also Standard 5, which is focused on affirming students' diversity and equity and inclusion for all students. So those are sort of the two areas that we're focusing on and sharing about tonight. And last year this started with us. Last year we presented on Wellness Wednesdays, which a couple of you are familiar with, but we do have a little video linked here for new school committee members if you wanted to take a peek at one of the initiatives we started last year. But in a nutshell, Wellness Wednesdays were a time that we honored our goal of not just promoting students' well-being, but also staff well-being and modeling healthy living for students. Staff are invited every Wednesday to wear athletic clothing and comfortable clothing, and they're encouraged just to dedicate some time during the school day to their own physical and mental health and well-being. That includes physical activity, also art and music opportunities, time to just like play games and connect with one another. And again, it's focused on the quote from Brad Johnson that if you take care of your staff, you take care of students, that a culture of care and support and appreciation and encouragement is a culture where everyone can thrive. So again, if you'd like to check out a quick video from last year, that's included. But this year we wanted to take and grow the practices that were already happening at Jefferson and what we deemed kind of growing the good. And we thought this is a nice embodiment in thinking about goals 1 and 5 and the social emotional well-being of staff and students, as well as that sense of belonging. We really want to make sure that we make that concerted effort to growing the good and focusing on that and taking things that are already happening and just wanting this sense of community to be felt throughout the school in every corner of our school and by every member of our school community. So this was a bulletin board that actually one of our lovely activity monitors created at the start of the school that we just feel exemplifies how we want all of the members of our school community to feel welcomed and valued. So in thinking about Wellness Wednesdays, this year, one of our new initiatives is to do Walking Wednesdays. And so on Wednesdays, we have issued an open invitations to students in grades 3 to 5 just to walk during recess if they'd like to. So it's an open invitation. Mrs. Murray and I come out in our sneakers and just sort of like, who wants to walk? And it's just a chance to share ideas with students, to hear about their perspectives, hear about their day. Sometimes they just connect with each other while they're walking, and we get, a little insight into what they're chatting about. But again, a Brad Johnson quote, just thinking about relationships before rigor and grace before grades and patience before programs and love before lessons. So again, just a chance for students to see Mrs. Murray and I as people and people who are trusted adults they can talk to, but also for us to hear just what the kids are chatting about or things they're doing in class. So that's one thing that we've done at Jefferson, and I think would love to grow that to include K through 2 as well.
And one of the other things that we have been growing this year is our core values, and not just having them posted, but really focusing on all of the good that the kids are doing on a daily basis. So you'll see up on the screen that there's a positive card, play on words, and basically we shared this exactly with the kids. How can you earn this positive card from a grown-up? You would go above and beyond exuding these core values, one of the core values. And when a student gets a positive card from a teacher, the student brings it down to the office, and we all come out, the secretary, myself, Mrs. Wasik, and we all celebrate the student, and they pop it in a positive box. And then on Fridays, we draw cards out of the positive box, and kids are rewarded through the vending machine, which you will see coming up. And the idea is to just have a universal, school-wide, positive behavior system where we're really focusing on being explicit with what we expect from kids, and then commending them for it. So really growing that good. So that's the positive card. And then,
Oh, yeah.
and then in that positive card, a big shout out to our literacy specialist who has spearheaded a book vending machine that has landed in our front lobby. And the book vending machine was funded through our PCC and through class gifts. Is fully stocked all the time, and students access the book vending machine when they have a birthday or if their name is drawn out of the positive card. We keep track of all students that get books to make sure that it's equitable, and it's a great way to promote literacy but also promote community. There was a student that earned a positive card and wanted to give a book to a friend that had walked by the book vending machine, and he knew that the friend really wanted the book. So they're having conversations about books, but they're also building their community too through these good choices. And it's just an engaging way of really getting kids excited about reading too. So a huge shout out to our literacy specialist and Jenny Callahan and our PCC for spearheading this great little addition to a Jefferson.
And her name is Wendy. We also are celebrating practices in addition to work by our literacy specialist, and a huge thanks to the work done by our math specialist, Mrs. Helbig. We're engaging in ST Math challenges this year. ST Math, as I'm sure some of you have heard, is spatial temporal math, and it's a grant-funded visual program that targets students' spatial temporal reasoning ability to solve mathematical problems. So there's very little language, if at all. It really relies on students' spatial temporal knowledge and skills. And so to encourage that work, and again, just sort of celebrate that work happening, we have different math challenges. So we have math challenges at the whole school level, and then at the classroom level, and then individual level. So whole school, We have challenges and incentives that include a visual display of the puzzle goal progress for the entire school right as you enter. And then there are puzzle challenges for extra recess. There's a snowball challenge. You can see pictured here is the puzzle challenge. So that's at the whole school level. And then drilling down at the classroom level, there we have progress tracking, posters hung up around for decade milestones. And then finally at the in classroom celebrations. And then finally at the individual level, students are setting their own goals and tracking their own progress. So just another example of how we're trying to grow that good and celebrate the work that's happening in literacy and in math.
This year, after COVID, last year, we were doing virtual school assemblies, and this year, now that it is safe, we've transferred over to in-person assemblies. Last year, we focused on our core values, and again, being really explicit with those core values. And this year, we have turned over ownership to school assemblies to grade levels, so that different grade levels can plan relevant ideas that are important to kids. And largely they're based on theme. For example, in November we did thankfulness, and our past January one was New Year resolutions and focusing on one word. And then February we have one that's coming up that's focusing on kindness, and we're partnering with the food pantry and doing tons of kindness. And raising food and weighing it and tying it curricularly to math. And students come dressed in their spirit wear for Jefferson. And it's just a really nice way to promote student agency and voice and leadership through these student-led assemblies that are driven by themselves.
And like Mrs. Murray said, I think that, again, amplifying student voices and their own leadership, and also, again, connected back to their sense of belonging, that really, this is their school community as well. So this is a great, celebration every month that we're really happy to certainly return to in person and celebrate each month. So that ends our sort of highlight of the school year, and obviously we thank you for the chance to share that work, and just welcome any questions you might have.
Thank you both very much. Start down this end, if there's any questions, comments.
I don't have any questions, just love the Wellness Wednesdays and, the focus there on modeling for the students, taking time for yourself and the community that builds. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo that again. I think that's really a fantastic approach in making sure that we're looking at, the educators and that they're well supported. Have you done anything looking into either ways to continue to build on that, or what the impacts have been like, getting any feedback from some of the educators?
Yeah, great question. Actually, if you take a peek at that little video, it's teacher voice. So it's teachers' reflections. They were given some time around this time last year when we presented, just to share their perspectives. So anecdotally, teachers also share it's a nice time to connect with each other. I think that when you, walk through the doors and that not only do you work alongside colleagues and, do you tackle, curricular issues and just kind of, how do we best support students? I think when you also are working alongside people who see you as an individual and know what's going on, know to ask, like, how did that recital go? Or, what's happening with such and such? So anecdotally, teachers will share, that sense of connectedness is nice, and just as a means to support one another. We also get feedback. We didn't mention this, but thinking about UDL, we also recognize that not everyone feels taken care of in the same way. So we tend to try to offer, maybe the last 10 minutes of a staff meeting could be, go for a walk outside, could be head to the music room. Mr. Barrett's going to do a 10-minute, ukulele lesson, heading to the gym. Moonball is a big hit. Sometimes it's connecting on, favorite quick weeknight recipes. So we also recognize, and based on feedback from staff, like different ways of connecting with each other.
That sounds great, and also the responsiveness to that, I think really, it goes a long way. So thank you for the efforts there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It was always definitely informative. One thing that jumped out at me that I really loved was the grade level hosted school meetings. So I think that's a really great way to have engagement, ownership, and just really have the kids be involved, as you had said. So great to hear, and glad to hear that something that we're bringing back that was prior to pandemic. So that's what really my question is going to. Now that we're a few more years post-pandemic, the height of pandemic anyway, how is this year feeling in comparison to the first few years out of pandemic and even to prior to pandemic? Like, how do you feel things are going?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I will share candidly, this is Mrs. Murray and I's second year at Jefferson. So we were together at Davis Thayer prior to the pandemic. So I can sort of speak to bits and pieces. I can say things like this are feeling, a nice sense of return to normalcy. That we are more able to get together in person, whether that's whole school assemblies or, curriculum enrichment, certainly school events. And I think those are, ways that, back to that piece of belonging, I think those are ways that students really do feel a sense of connectedness and belonging, and I think families as well. That's another big piece, is it was really nice, last year and this year to be able to return to opening up doors and welcoming families into school. Certainly not having had that for a couple of years. It's nice when families get to come in and see artwork on the walls and see classrooms, and so that's been a welcome return to normalcy.
I also think kids feel adults' energy and adults feel safer and more settled. And so I think as the years continue on, we see kids feeling safer and more settled. And again, like you see that through their positive choices and their interactions with each other. So that's a big difference that I'm seeing even between year 1 and year 2.
Great, yeah, no, that's definitely a great call out in terms of the sensing how the adults are, and it's kind of trickling down to the students and vice versa. So great, thank you. And I'm hoping, we continue on this trajectory and it's a thing of the past in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you both very much for this presentation. It's very evident just the positive school culture that you're being very intentional about creating here, with the wellness and the Walking Wednesdays. I think it's wonderful not only to promote just an active lifestyle, but also as you highlighted, really putting yourselves out there and making sure that the students are aware that you both are also accessible and there to talk to if need be. And I love the positive cards as well, both to highlight and praise students who are really exemplifying the values that you really want to have be core and foundational in terms of the student culture, but also encouraging their fellow students to, when they see someone who is exemplifying those values, to call them out and to show that and to laud that. And I think that's also really valuable to instill in students, that they should be encouraging those around them, because that, of course, creates a very healthy and positive and vibrant school culture, which is beneficial for learning, but also all the staff and administrators as well. So yeah, thank you. I think that's great. And then promoting the literacy to top it all off with the book vending machines. That's fantastic. So yeah, thank you for this. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Hi. I don't have a ton to add to what everyone said. Kudos to Wellness Wednesdays to even recognize. I bring up a lot that we're so hyper student focused. Of course, that's our purview. It's our job. But anyone in private industry or whatever kind of sector you're in, the biggest asset anyone has is the human capital. So if retention and retaining teachers is the biggest thing, sort of just stressing our system right now. Administrators, thank you for being an administrator. I know that it's impossible to recruit admins right now. If you know anyone who wants to be admins in middle school, I hear that's a really hot job. But is one thing I had mentioned last last week, 2 weeks ago, and I'll just reiterate it again because not everybody watches, so maybe more from the public's sort of point of view, is I know a couple of years ago, I remember specifically talking to teachers about one of the things that was cut was summer stipends, where they got to come in for a couple of weeks and kind of flex their sort of creativity, and so it's above and beyond just salaries that matter to retain these educators. So thank you for all of that, and you know, anything that you want to do outside the box thinking that would help us retain and recruit. I know we're having meetings on Friday to kind of, you know, we're creating sort of 4 budgets right now. One if it's just like the 2.5 increase, one if it's level setting, one if it's like a little better than we've done, and then like one that would be healthy, which is like kind of a scary word for people to use, but I'd love a healthy budget. So please bring all your ideas. We appreciate everything you do. Thanks.
Yeah, I heard great stories about Jefferson schools, and really appreciate what you guys doing. And I saw that what Dan said, I second that. The cards is a really efficient idea. Like moving forward, you know, every elementary school plays a crucial role for every student's life career. I think Jefferson is doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you once again. Lovely hearing, you know, the presentation, especially too, just pointing it to the school improvement plan as well. I know kind of coming off the heels of the superintendent evaluation meeting that we had just a couple of weeks ago, you know, you constantly kind of, it's great when you see all the schools, you know, that alignment, you know, towards some of these bigger goals, all really kind of leading to, you know, the example that Lucas is kind of setting. So it's wonderful when it's kind of couched that away. So but thank you all for everything that you're doing. Have a great night. Really appreciate it.
Great, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone should have mentioned how outstanding that literacy person in Jefferson is. Worth mentioning.
All right, and so real quick, if nobody minds, we're just going to want to entertain a motion just to take the agenda out of order and jump into discussion item A, DECA International, the reoccurring trip. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you guys very much. So we'll get to the comprehensive facility assessment, but right now though, we'll, if we can have DECA.
Thank you. Right, thank you. I'll introduce you to come up. Just before I introduce DECA, I just wanted to thank Ms. Wasik and Ms. Murray as well for the work they do with kids, and just say they make great connections with their staff and really have built a positive culture there, but they're equally make great connections with students and families too. So just thank you for all your hard work, and it was really demonstrated there. So
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
okay, thank you for taking this out of order. We have our folks from DECA, Ms. Emily Rossborough and Frank Wood are joining us as the DECA advisors. So thank you for allowing them to come up tonight to share. So there's 2 things on the agenda. One is a state competition in Boston. That's a recurring vote, and if this was a committee that had existed, we could have done the national vote. It's an overnight trip, but you would have been voting on approving that. But given that we have new members and this is a trip, there's 2 trips, so I'll explain. But there's a California opportunity for nationals. It's internationals, but it's in California. And we thought it made sense to just put this in front of you, just for the opportunity to kind of hear about it and talk about it and allow you to ask questions so that there's more comfortability. Because ultimately, we're seeking approval for both. And I will kick it over to Emily. And at this point, Emily, we're talking about the overnight international trip, but I would like you to still elaborate on Mansfield and Boston rather, and moving forward, okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
So our DECA team of 215 students competed in Mansfield. About 100 of them have gone on to Boston, which we'll talk about, and then we're hoping that a large number of them move on to Anaheim, California, which is the international trip. So the international trip, ICDC, is the abbreviation for it. is done every year, but it moves. So it's Orlando, Anaheim, Nashville, and Atlanta. So it has to come up every year kind of as a separate trip because it's new almost every year. So this year it is being held in Anaheim, California. It will be for 1 week. We are anticipating, I'm hoping around 50 students will be attending, along with teachers as the chaperones will be attending as well. It is very complex. I think you have my trip approval request form. I don't know if you were also included on the development conference packet that I sent over as well to Lucas. That should be on the back. So that has all of the information that we have so far for the international trip. There are definitely some blanks that we'll need to fill in as students do qualify through Boston for the international trip. But we do already have hotels secured. We're working on getting transportation secured, which would be airfare and transportation from the airport to the hotel, and any transportation needed around the area in Anaheim. That will be handled through AAA here, and the DECA International Committee will help me with that as well. I'm also working with, we are also working with other schools in the area who are anticipating taking this trip as well, including KP and Rehoboth, and there's a few others that we're working with, to make sure that we're all aligned and we're all doing the same thing, so that Massachusetts is together and figuring out all the transportation all at the same time. The way that the international trip is set up, each state is put in a different hotel, so all of our students will be staying with other Massachusetts students, and it's all through Anaheim. And then everything should be in walking distance. Now, I'm a little unclear about how Anaheim is built. I've only been there very quickly once, so I am still working on if the students are able to walk from the hotel to the conference center. I assume they can, that's what I've been told, but I do want to make sure that that is all set prior to us going through with the trip. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. It starts April 26th. We would fly into Anaheim. Then there's a whole bunch of conferences that the students go through to work on their business skills and leadership skills. There's a leadership academy that students can attend. There are a couple of days where the students are allowed to do Disneyland or Universal Studios, and that is done with DECA. So all of DECA would go over to their like nighttime Disney day. And then we'd fly back on the 1st after all of the awards ceremonies, which is laid out all of the different events that students can take part in. There are scholarship opportunities, there's college opportunities, there's internship opportunities for both Anaheim and as Boston as well. It's a really great trip for students who are looking to get into the field of business or even just be in a leadership position. I know there's a lot of students who may want to do business now as a sophomore or a junior, but may want to do something different. But all of these leadership skills are applicable across the board to whatever career they choose. But it just is an excellent opportunity that we're hoping to allow our students to continue to do year after year. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the committee?
What have you planned any fundraisers yet?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we've done a few fundraisers already, anticipating now. This is my first year as an advisor in DECA. So I did start a little bit behind. So next year's fundraising will begin the end of this year. So this year we started in October. So we did a t-shirt fundraiser. We collaborated with the theater department working on a Halloween thing. It was very, very tiny just because we were trying to get the ball rolling very quickly. We had a pumpkin carving contest. We're also selling chocolates, and we just got winter beanies with Franklin on the front. So we're going to be selling those as well. So we're trying to fundraise as much as possible to alleviate some of the costs on the students, because I know that these trips can be very expensive.
Yeah, we're happy to share those, if you want to email us
Yeah.
on community relations too, so, just
Perfect.
anything we can do to help the clubs
I appreciate it.
thrive.
Thank you.
Sure.
We are also looking for corporate sponsorships. We do have a couple of students who have sent out some letters, just as an idea. I'm not sure because I am sort of leaving it up to the students to try to figure out which, because I'm still trying to figure out which sponsorships we could get, which businesses might be willing to donate. But I do have a letter ready to go that I could also send.
Yeah, there's plenty of businesses in Franklin that look for tax breaks here and there from the council, so.
Yeah.
This is what we hope that they would do, so.
Great.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for this information. I just love the DECA program itself and all the students, everything that kind of comes out of it. It's just always amazing and exciting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how many students kind of qualify and kind of what happens.
I'm hoping
from
it's a
there.
lot.
It's wonderful. All right, so then, go
I
ahead.
need to make a recommendation. I recommend approval of the request of Emily Rossborough and Frank Wood to take the DECA students to Anaheim, California from April 26th, 2024 to May 1st, 2024 to participate in the DECA competition as detailed.
All right, and is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, motion will come on a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Safe travels, you know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Emily, what we'll do is, I will let you know about the state approval.
Do you want me to wait?
You don't have to wait for that.
Okay.
I think it's okay if you wanted to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so now we will jump back to guest presentations. Mr. Tier for comprehensive facility assessment update.
Great, thank you. I think there's a way to present from that but I don't know how. So this just was a little easier. Let this warm up. So as you know, I can begin by just saying, as you know, we have been in the process of a comprehensive facilities assessment update. We're providing a winter update now. I thought it made sense at this stage to provide some context to kind of what's happening, update you on the steps that have been taken, and then what still needs to be done between now and the end of the year. So it's a beautiful
winter.
screen. Yes. So it's cold. That's my winter update. Okay. Simple computer. New to me. It's not new. Just a record. All right, let me try one more thing. So, this typically doesn't. Good, that's good. That's a good sign, folks. We're gonna be back in business. Multi-factor authentication. Okay. So here we go. And we're in business. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Here we are. So winter update. Just to give you a sense, history and context, right? We are Franklin Public Schools, as you know, and we aim to try to provide the best education we can for our students and look at the facilities we have to do that and make sure that we have not only the team, but the field and the conditions that allow us to support education in a way that the folks in Franklin expect. And our task this year is to build off of work that has been in process, and I have a timeline for you, over the past few years, which included as recent as last year when we did a redistricting analysis. The task this year is to really look at the physical environment, but the programmatic environment, and look at how we're educating kids and where we're educating kids and what spaces and what that looks like. I will move to the next slide. So just to give you a little history, so we had a demographic report done in 2019 by Jerry McKibben and Associates. He came, he presented, and talked through basically enrollment and population forecasting. And he did that in 2019, and he used the 2010 census data, and it was pre-pandemic. And then we had Kessel Booz do a facilities analysis report in the fall of 2020. That led to recommendations and ultimately the closure of Davis Thayer in 2021. In 2022-23, we conducted a redistricting analysis to evaluate the distribution of students, look at our facility, and basically in 2023, this past spring, the vote of the school committee was to keep the current boundaries as they exist and do a more comprehensive look at all schools and look at how we're organized and look at the number of students we have in each school and our facilities in general. One thing that we knew when we did this redistricting analysis, this is a snapshot from that document. It's linked in the presentation as well. But ultimately, what we knew was that we needed to do some master planning. We call it a comprehensive facilities assessment to not confuse it with master planning happening at the town level. But ultimately, we needed to look at this from a comprehensive view. So continuing that work was really important. And one thing that we knew when we started to look at redistricting and we looked at the Kessel Booz report on facilities, one thing that was clear, and I took some screenshots to just kind of target pieces of it, was that one thing like specialized programming and where they exist in each school and where that space exists was an area that wasn't accounted for in that initial assessment. So using that document as a foundational document is one piece, but we knew that we had to fill in some blanks, and that's the task that we have before us this year, is how do we get all the information we need to provide a comprehensive look at our schools and then provide some recommendations as we move forward. So there's basically, it's a three-legged stool, if you will, all right? There's basically three components that we are focusing on this year. The first is around population and enrollment forecasting. So Jerry McKibben, who did the 2019 report that I referenced earlier, we called him up this fall. He conducted a new forecast, and what he did was he used the 2020 census data. So you do that every 10 years. So now he's using up-to-date census data that's also post-pandemic. So it made sense on our end, if we're going to be forecasting and ultimately looking at possible options and decisions down the road, we needed to make sure that we have the most accurate and up-to-date forecast that we possibly could for our community. So he presented. I have a slide just dedicated to population, so I'm going to do an overview, zoom out, and then I'll hit on these each in more detail. The second was educational visioning and adequacy. You heard me reference earlier that when we look at the KBA report, there were pieces of it that we needed to fill in to make sure that we had a full understanding of the facilities, the space, the district, and adequacy. This also includes visioning. What do we want for our students? What does that look like? How do we deliver the best education we can? Are we meeting the portrait of a graduate? These are all questions that we plan to have an answer for all of you in our community as part of this analysis. The last piece was continuing the work of the assessment. What pieces do we need to fill in the blanks, look at operational costs and maintenance and utilization. And ultimately that all feeds into, I put school master plan because that's what the company calls it. I wanted to just make that clear, but it's a comprehensive map that looks at our work. How are we delivering instruction in the buildings we have, with the number of students we anticipate, and the space we need to adequately do that. So those are all the big pieces. So when we think about population enrollment forecasts, I tried to break this down very simply. What have we done and what do we have next? So for example, in this one, we contracted with McKibben, I mentioned that. He put together a population forecast that looks at a variety of demographic factors. We then received the forecast. It was a draft. We went back and forth on a couple of areas of clarification. We have since met with Jerry McKibben to unpack the results. And the next step is he is scheduled to present a presentation and share his report findings with the comprehensive facilities assessment subcommittee. It's a public meeting. He will present that. I will record it on Zoom, so we have that. But on February 7th at 5 p.m., he will be sharing his forecast. So just to give you a sense of when that's happening. We'll also be sharing this information with Frank Locker and Associates, who is the master planning company that we're using and cooperating and collaborating with to continue this work. This forecast is the three-legged stool. They look at all three legs. So they're going to take that leg and include that information in the forecasting. We then will continue to do, a further comparative analysis of our current enrollment versus forecasted, and just try to marry the two and make sure that we're on the same page, and that will be part of a future report or recommendation. The next leg, visioning. So there's a couple of pieces to this. There's a visioning workshop that occurs. And one of it involves stakeholders, and it involves different folks and representatives from our community. But ultimately, we've been working with, they facilitate a visioning workshop and a portrait of a graduate application workshop. Because we've established the portrait of a graduate in Franklin, sometimes this company will do that work for you. But redoing the portrait of a graduate felt like we could be utilizing our time differently. And where are we at? It's almost like we heard about UDL and differentiating. Our entry point in Franklin is, how do we now look at, okay, you've established this portrait of a graduate. How is it being applied? So you do basically an inventory of where are we seeing the portrait of a graduate lived and demonstrated within our educational program, and where are areas in which we could improve, and then they provide recommendations on that. That's one piece. The second piece is a visioning. There's a visioning where you have representatives from different stakeholders, from students to families to community to employees, staff, right? Staff, admin, to do some visioning, and they do a comprehensive multi-day workshop where you bring representatives together to do some work. One thing they have had success with, and this company's working with everywhere from Vancouver to Ohio to Massachusetts, and does this for a living, and they recommended trying to have representatives for that stage so that you have a tighter group and work through. So if it's 30 members or something to that effect, working to extrapolate that out. The second part of the visioning is community forums. So students, staff, parents, and providing some opportunity to say, okay, we met with a representative group. Now it's an opportunity to share out what became of that, get more input. And it's the strategy that they use to cover as much ground as possible and get as many voices in a controlled way that's manageable and leads to a productive time together. So I just spoke to Dr. Locker today, which is why I'm getting into a little more detail than I prepared in the presentation. But basically, that's the gist of the visioning and an adequacy. I want to talk about adequacy. We conducted walkthroughs, so it ties in with facilities assessment, with Locker and Associates, and they have an educational architect that they work with, also works with Kessel Booz and Associates as well, to walk through our spaces. So every principal, a member of central office, if possible, a member of the school committee, the subcommittee, and, is that it? Thank you. Walked through each building to show the spaces to the architect and show where classes are being taught, where specialized programs live, where are rooms that aren't necessarily classroom size but are used for multi-purpose or something to that effect, to walk through. So that already occurred right when we got back from the new year. After, I think January 3rd was like the first walkthrough. So that occurred in that time to fill in the blanks on the facilities assessment. How do we take a foundational document and fill in the holes that we need? We anticipate getting a report from the architect on that walkthrough and the results of that. And I'm anticipating March 6th potentially. I didn't put it in here because I took the call at 5 o'clock. But I would say to you that I think it's March 6th, if there's a subcommittee meeting that night, is what we've penciled in. I will let you know that date. That will also be a public meeting where I'm trying to stage out information. So forecast, focus of that meeting, let's get that down. Educational adequacy, let's do that. Visioning and portrait of a graduate application, let's have those occur with those community opportunities. And Then, that's the facilities assessment, and then this ultimately leads to the master plan. So ultimately, how are we delivering instruction to meet the needs of our kids? How are we organized in distributing students in grade levels? And how are we looking at our facility and the utilization of it to meet the needs of our programming are really the goals of that work. I pulled a few pieces just so people understood kind of the idea. This was from the original report, and it talked about master planning, which is what we're doing. So this is a continuation of the analysis that occurred last year. Ultimately, it's a recommendation that we continue to look at this in a larger scope. So I'm just trying to anchor some of these ideas. The 10-year need was a focus of that recommendation in the report that was done, but we recognized we needed more information in order to have that down and look more long range. And then finally, they did talk about how they would need, this was the report that they did, they basically acknowledged there was more information needed in order to have a full picture. And then from our redistricting analysis, we had kind of broken down an idea of what this would look like. So in this year, it's about the comprehensive facilities assessment and visioning. It's what we're doing, looking at recommendations for master planning, and then ultimately looking next year at different priorities. Whatever decisions are made, you need a year to organize yourself to get, to determine what you're going to do. And then ultimately a 10-year goal is, depending on what this report yields and what the recommendations are, if there's any long-term planning that needs to be considered based on the forecast enrollment, if we anticipate that numbers decline, but then they start to climb back up by 2032, what's our plan in 2032? And you don't want to be thinking about that in 2031. So that's the idea of the long-range planning. So that's just a brief overview, but it's an update on kind of where we're at and the direction that we're moving, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, thank you so much. I know there's a lot of moving pieces with this, and that's why I really appreciate kind of you putting together this presentation. I think it's really helpful just for the community at large, just to have an idea about all the the whole process, all the steps that have been taken and the steps that have to be taken moving forward as well. That said, though, I'll open the floor if there's any kind of questions, comments.
I don't have any questions
Okay, thank you.
at this point. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just real quick, you said March 6th.
I
I have
spitballed
that-
it.
I have that as like a spitball number for joint budget subcommittee too. Have you
Yeah,
heard that? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have quoted a date, but I
Oh,
was,
that's okay. I've heard
you're
it from
right, I
multiple
think,
counselors that they're thinking that's the date. So
okay,
it's like,
I think we'll definitely, that's a great consideration. We'll have to make adjustments based on what the.
Yeah, we got to be at that.
Right, we do. So we will get a date. I'm just looking to see where it fits, and I was trying to tie it to an existing subcommittee meeting that's dedicated to that work. So we can make adjustments if
And
needed.
that's not concrete either.
Yeah, I didn't have it in the slide deck, and like
Yeah.
rule number 1 is don't go off script, and I've done that twice tonight, so.
I only go off script, so no. And thank you for putting this together, because I was sort of one of the people that, I'm not on facilities subcommittee, and I'm out there and I'm chairing this override committee, so I get these talks about, we can't wait for a master facilities plan because we're in dire need now. So I think this really clarified like what our timeline is, and that, to kind of counter the narrative sometimes that the schools don't like to make big decisions. This is like going to be a huge decision, just like redistricting was last year. And it sounds like it was wise to make sure that we do it right, because it's not just an immediate Band-Aid, it's like a vision. So you're being asked to do quite a bit for our district. So thank you. I know you're probably not like a facilities architect by trade, so.
I wanted to be, my guidance counselor told me I wouldn't be able to cut it, so.
We want a
I
10-year
went the
vision,
Marines.
we want a bold forecast, we want this 4 different budgets developed, we want a facilities master plan, so, thank you. I know you're working night and day.
Thank you very much for this update. I really appreciate just how well thought out the information that you're going to be presenting to us is, but also that you have a roadmap for what to expect not only over the next few months, but really over the next few years, because this is an enormous both undertaking, but also enormous, just a very weighty subject matter and decision that needs to, be taken or not taken, depending on what the information bears out. So I think it's, it's extremely important that we're taking our time to make sure that we make the most informed decision that we possibly can. And I think, you laid out beautifully that that's exactly what we're doing, given the, tremendous implications that this would have on, the school budget, but also just for the town in general. It's extremely important to highlight that we are really delving into the weeds here with the demographic information, our visioning, as well as our facilities needs and to put that all together. So we look forward to taking our time to make this informed decision, but also and evaluate the information as it comes out. So thank you for laying that all out for us.
Sure. And I have a more detailed draft of those actual dates of the visioning day but we're still confirming some of those, so I will be sharing that information as soon as some of those dates are confirmed and we have that picture, because I think that will add a little more detail to the timeline.
Thank you.
No questions, thank you.
I appreciate the additional guidance and really laying all this out. There's a lot of layers that go into this, and I think you would be here a lot longer if you need to actually go through it all. But I do appreciate that you are making sure to communicate that. Yeah, it's going to be a big lift, but I appreciate the work.
Sure.
Mineko. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the next meeting coming up to get more data and see where we go from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, so. Give you a moment.
Yep. I'm ready.
Next, we got discussion-only items. School Committee 2024-25 meeting schedule draft.
Okay, as you know, in your packet, there's a draft of the school committee schedule as proposed. We're looking at, basically process being, we show it tonight, and then it would go to vote next meeting to approve the meeting agenda. But basically, we stuck with the meeting in July as that one meeting. And then we have 2 in August, 2 in September, October. We hit our election season. There's 2. In December, there's 1 meeting because that's typically a month where, with the winter, with the holidays that exist, where we do that. And then you'll notice in February, for the same reasons, you have that vacation week. There's only about 5 days in between the school committee meeting and then the vacation week, and then to come back on that Tuesday. So for work, we're doing that this year as well. And that's where you'll notice there's 1 meeting in February, and then it goes back to 2 for the rest of the year. So happy to open it up to feedback, questions, concerns, and if I can't answer it now, I'll certainly get back to you.
Just one comment. So I know last year we had the elections on it, and it was just because we had the town elections. But given that we don't have town elections in 2024, I'm thinking maybe we just leave that out so it's not confusing
Less
for folks.
confusing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think when there is an election, it makes sense since there may
Right.
be a change in the school committee.
Right. I'm trying to recall what we did 2 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think
It wasn't on there?
No, it wasn't on
Okay.
there.
All right. Yep, thank you. That's a good catch.
Cool.
You can look at that.
So it's not us. Everyone here is still on the hook for a little bit longer. All right, terrific. And then so, so it's great. We'll kind of get that feedback, and then we'll kind of have it come back next meeting for a vote.
So yes, if anyone has a question, you could also individually reach out to me if you have specific questions about this between now and the next meeting. Otherwise, we'll put it on the agenda for vote.
All right, thank you very much. So then, information matters. We got subcommittee reports. Start superintendent evaluation.
Nothing to report this time.
All right. How about budget?
Yes, budget met right before this meeting, where we discussed the FY25 budget development process, the numbers we're working with, and the needs that we anticipate, and kind of projecting out what the possible budget could look like. We're going to be entering the budget development process and budget season over the next few weeks and months. There'll be a number of different meetings to look forward to, one of which will be this Friday, which is going to be a budget workshop open to all school committee members. We'll be hearing about, again, different budget needs and other projections. And I believe next month there'll be a school committee meeting that will highlight some of the information that was shared both this evening and on Friday as well. And then we'll be having our next budget meeting after that, I believe, in March. But given that it'll be busy budget season with the hearings happening, we could possibly anticipate other ones as well. So stay tuned, plenty on that front.
And then just to confirm, so right now, joint budget,
Joint budget is not yet confirmed at this time, but is anticipated to be early March.
okay, terrific, thank you very much. Policy.
Policy, we have not met. Our first meeting is in February.
Community relations.
We have not met since our January meeting, so the next meeting will be on the 12th of February, and it'll be at FHS.
All right, joint PCC.
Yep, similar as well, just not at FHS. It'll be on 2/12.
Thank you. Let's see, school wellness advisory.
We don't have this meeting this year.
Okay. And then mental health and well-being task force.
We haven't met since last time either, but we'll be at Panther Pride on the 12th.
And then DEI committee.
We haven't met since the last meeting either.
Okay. And then obviously we all heard from the winter update for the comprehensive facility assessment. And then so our next meeting, we got February 7th. We'll hear about from the McKibbins. Right, it's exciting. All right. So we'll go consent agenda.
Okay. I recommend approval of the minutes from the January 9th, 2024 school committee meeting as detailed. I recommend acceptance of a check for $560 from Music Parents for in-house enrichment for the music department as detailed. I recommend acceptance of a check for $43.80 from Box Tops for Jefferson field trip as detailed. I recommend approval of the request of Emily Rossborough to take DECA students to Boston, Massachusetts from March 7th, 2024 to March 9th, 2024 to participate in the DECA competition as detailed.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussions, questions? Hearing none. Vote will come on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, now moving on to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens in the audience, in person or online, who would like to make a comment on an item not on tonight's agenda and falls within the committee's purview? All right, seeing none. New business?
As previously stated, we'll expect a budget teaser on February 13th. I know we mentioned Friday's workshop, but certainly that'll be a night where we have that on the agenda. There's also the vote for calendar, as we talked about earlier. So those are the two things. You'll also see a school calendar draft, I believe, at that meeting. We anticipate having it for first read and approval.
Okay, fantastic. All right, and then so without any further ado, unless there's any other questions or comments from the committee, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? Second.
Second. Second.
I feel like Mr. Mercer over there, non-debatable. It is debatable if there's any questions or comments. Seeing none, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Thanks, everybody.
That was quick.
I think that's the first meeting we've ever had.
Yeah, exactly.